Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have
Michael Henderson, co-founder, Moon World Resorts, Inc.
And that's where we get started. Moon World Resorts, Inc. is I would say, fairly unique project. So maybe you're better explaining this than I could ever be. Why don't you explain what the Moon Resort is and where it's going to be and how it's going to get built?
Well, nice to be with you, Warren. Essentially, the project could be sort of viewed in two spheres, forgive the pun. Mm-hmm. One is it's a large-scale, mega-scale destination resort. So it has all of the component parts fully integrated that one would expect to find in a very large-scale destination resort, such as event centers and convention centers and live shows, restaurants and hotel and so on. Then the second sort of angle we come at the project with is the actual identity of it, the moon. And so we incorporate the building in the world's largest sphere. And then within that, we have created a lunar surface and a lunar colony, which is what we refer to as our signature attraction. Mm. And so large-scale destination resort with a twist. That twist being the ability in your lifetime to walk on what you will believe to be the lunar surface, spend some time exploring the lunar colony. And if you like, in short, the project really is all about space tourism for everybody. Mm-hmm. Space tourism has finally, after 20 years, become a thing, but it's hard to participate because it's extraordinarily expensive. So our project really is about enabling everybody to participate in this wonderful thing called space tourism.
Now, we should talk about how big this thing is. Like you said, it's a megasphere. The renderings I've seen, and we should also mention it's going to be in Dubai because that's a great place to build a giant building because they have lots of them. But this thing dwarfs even those from what I can tell. Maybe you could go into that.
So let me just correct you on one thing. Global press has exploded with the project. We're everywhere. And to be truthful, it's very hard to keep up with it at the moment. It's right. Exciting, but it's also a little crazy. We will license Moon to be built in 4 global locations. Okay. Yeah. One will be in Europe, most likely southern Spain. One will be North America, obviously the US. One will be in the Asia Pacific region, could be China, Japan, or Singapore. And within the MENA region, we're looking at Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, or KSA.
Gotcha.
Now,
okay.
It's true. The UAE is a front runner, and within the UAE, basically Dubai or Abu Dhabi are options that we're looking at. Dubai, for many reasons, would be a phenomenal location. It would work great, and you even see some of the renderings showing it there. I mean, it's perfect. And the folks in the public, the general public in the UAE, specifically Dubai, have gone crazy for this. So it's kind of interesting just to gauge some reaction. As regards to scale, that will also depend on where it's built. For instance, in Las Vegas, we can go to 735 feet above ground level. In Dubai, depending again where it would be built, we can probably go taller, up to 1,000 feet, perhaps. This is really all to do with how close proximity you are to an airport. Mm-hmm. And in Vegas, you'll know that the Las Vegas Strip is pretty close to
right, yeah.
Harry Reid International Airport. So it's kind of we've got to deal with that. What makes Moon so interesting is being a true sphere. Of course, the height is spectacular, but the width is also spectacular. Mm-hmm. And so that's what gives the defining moment when you look at it, and that sort of wow moment. The Burj Khalifa, when you look at it, it's tall, it's spectacular, it's narrow, and it's amazing. But Moon will also be, very wide,
Mm-hmm.
and that will give it a real true presence. But yes, it's big. It's a mega structure.
And from what I've seen, and I don't know if these are accurate or not, these are just the schematics I've seen kind of floating around the internet. The base is sort of the resort area where all the standard resort stuff is, and then there's basically what amounts to a tower inside the sphere, and then the top half of the sphere is the lunar surface. And what I was wondering
Correct.
is, besides how all that works, is the closest analog I can come up with, and it's not even close, is Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland and Disney World, where they sort of enclose you in an environment, and there's probably LCD screens to make you think you're in space. Would that be what you would do with the stuff that's enclosed, like where it's sort of a big immersive environment, even for the hotel stuff?
So the hotel, you're correct. Basically, the bottom items or the bottom structures, what we call the disc buildings, and depending on how much real estate we put in the bottom, will be depending on how many discs. So if you want to have additional components, you simply add another disc. And so those discs at the bottom are where you will find most of the sort of component parts. I should say to you, though, the point you made about the normal sort of stuff you would find, that is true. However, I will say that each of the component parts, even though they may be called spa wellness or event center, they will still be totally different than anything you would have seen. Okay. So the individual component parts themselves will be pretty amazing. However, to answer your question, the central superstructure building is the hotel, 4,000 five-star suites, and the top of that supports what we call the lunar surface.
Right.
And so the easiest way to describe the lunar surface is the classic scenario of an orange, cut it in half horizontally, and that surface then is our 10-acre lunar surface. Above that, you basically have the top of the orange, which is, internally just a dome, and it becomes a massive, you'd be standing on the lunar surface looking back at the galaxy and looking back at Earth and everything else. So very authentic. It's not a theme park. It's not Disney or Universal, two phenomenal companies at what they do, but they build theme parks. This is not a theme park. It's authentic. It's adult oriented. But yes, that's kind of the that's kind of the superstructure. In the hotel rooms, we don't have any windows. All of the windows are electronic.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering.
And and so essentially we have the technology that you will be able to go into your room, and this is not a television screen; it's the complete wall, so it's like floor-to-ceiling glass, if you like. And the technology today will give you the opportunity to see anything you want. So, for instance, if you're in Dubai, if before you left and you happen to live in Toronto, you took a photograph of your front garden, as you walk in to your room at Moon in Dubai, you can touch your phone against the sensor, and all of a sudden you're looking out at your front garden. And so no matter what you want, your kids, your dog, your cat, if you want the Eiffel Tower to be there, if you want Las Vegas to be there day or night, if you want the moon to be there, of course it's there too. So it's a complete immersive experience. There is no need for you when you check into the hotel to say, do you have a room with a nice view?
Right.
Because the bottom line is every room has a nice view.
Yeah. Another thing I was wondering is just in terms of construction, not going into specifics or anything, because you're probably not even at that point, but building the lunar surface is kind of a unique ask, and so is doing the outside sphere and making it look like the moon. How do you go about doing that in general terms?
Well, the exterior, fortunately, there is tremendous expertise around the world and in Canada, I have to say. The architects and engineers that we have here are truly spectacular. They are world class. And this expertise is there. It's just there. The exterior will be carbon fiber composite. We'll have a solar element to it so that the building can power itself because the sphere is massive. But it'll be extremely realistic. The exact topography of the lunar surface is available now through NASA and
Of
lots
course,
of other
yeah.
organizations. So you don't have to sort of pretend that this is what it looks like. You can actually create exactly what it looks like to scale. So that's fairly straightforward. That's not such a big deal. The actual lunar surface itself, the topography will be based on where we choose that 10 acres to be, and then we will replicate that precise surface topography. Again, all of this is being mapped by multiple space organizations. So you don't have to guess. You don't have to make it up. You just basically follow the footprint.
Okay. And just how difficult is it to build a sphere that big? Because has that been done before, a sphere of that size?
No, never. Not even close. Not remotely close. I would say that 20 years ago, when we first sort of did the initial scribbles, I would say it would have been, really, really challenging. It's still challenging today, but you will remember being in the construction sphere that, buildings were typically 20 years ago straight up and down square boxes, rectangular boxes, whatever. Today, they're leaning this way, they're leaning that way, they're twisting, they're, they're upside down. I mean, they're all over the place. So structural engineering has come a long way, and pretty much anything you can think of today, you can build, just about it. So the sphere is it's not the most difficult structure. It looks it on the outside, but remember there's a superstructure building on the inside that it's kind of pivoting off. Right. So it's kind of being held in place by that, as well as obviously a little bit of concrete at the bottom.
Well, yeah. So what's the timeline on this? This is sort of here's the idea stage, I'd assume, but where do you go from here?
Well, we're well past the idea stage. We're well past the concept stage. There's a gazillion hours and dollars that have gone into this already, and it's come a long way from its initial scribbles. So where we are today is we are in discussions with potential regional licensees around the world. We would look to complete a regional license by the end of this year. Then we enter what we call a pre-development program, which is 12 months. And that's basically to get planning permission and that type of thing. And then we start to build. It's a 4-year build out. And it's an aggressive build out. But we can get the main superstructure building, all of the discs and the hotel structure completed in 26 months. Then the hard bit, obviously, we got to create the sphere. But more or less 48 months with a very large construction company, thousands of people, probably 3,000 to 4,000 workers on the job. But it's all doable. Unless of course you're going to build it in China, in which case you can build it in 10 days.
Well, yeah, it's a whole other story. As we said, everybody's covering this, but other than this podcast where we're getting the real deal, where else can people go to find out more about this project?
Well, at the moment, our website is very basic, and that's deliberate because we really don't know exactly which one will come first. We have a very comprehensive website that will be coming down the pipeline, but we're not quite ready yet. But honestly, it's caught us by surprise. In the past, we've had, a few little bits of media here and there, but this last couple of weeks, honestly, it's just exploded around the world. And we're on 400 sites. If you Google Moon World Resorts, you can take your pick from Architectural Digest to Forbes, Bloomberg, CNN. I mean, it's everywhere. And it's challenging to keep up with it.
Yeah, for me too. Yeah.
It's, so I'm pleased with myself that I got your name right because we got 6 radio interviews today. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, then I won't take any more of your time.
No, you're fine.
Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks.